Yes. Oh man. Listen. Ooh, I feel like I'm an expert on compromising at this point in my life. Mainly because I have a wonderful, amazing wife,
Hmm.
but she is very anal about a lot of things, and especially anybody who knows her,
Hmm.
aesthetics, like
Yes.
the way things look are like huge for her.
Yeah.
So there are so many things that I have to figure out and compromise on,
Mhm.
find a way to meet in the middle or defer to her
Yeah.
in order for things just to move forward and us to not get into this full blown argument. So I have my own four things that I want to share with y'all of
Mhm.
how to work through conflict and how to compromise
Yeah.
with someone. And I wrote some of them down. So here we go. You ready for the first one,
I'm
Rhonda?
ready. I'm ready. I'm taking notes, mental notes.
Um, First one is that you both are right. Most of the time, you both are right. Like,
Mhm.
it's not a thing to where the person is wrong and you're right, or they're right and you're wrong.
Yeah.
It's just a difference of opinion. Even in this situation, how you grew up, your family dynamic is different from theirs.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily wrong for feeling how they feel.
Nope.
And if you explain like both of their points, I can see both sides of that, right, in
Hmm.
this scenario.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of times we think that the way to get what we want when we're compromising is by persuading the other person to think how we think.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not the way to do it, because
Hmm.
ultimately that puts one person on defense and
Hmm.
puts one person like attacking the other person.
Yeah.
And you tell me, I mean, we all watch law shows and Law and Order,
True.
everything. Are the prosecutor and the defense ever on the same team?
No.
No,
Never.
they
Never.
ain't working together.
No, they're not.
They ain't trying to figure out a great solution together. They're
Nope.
trying to defend their point
Yep.
and drive home whatever they're trying to drive home.
Hmm. So
And
true.
luckily in the legal system, at least you have a judge
Yes.
and a
A
jury
jury.
of your peers
Yep.
unbiasedly judging this.
Yeah.
And there has to be some type of solution after a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
In real life, it's just y'all two.
It's just y'all. No judge, no jury.
No judge, no jury. So if
Yeah.
y'all are attacking each other, y'all ain't gonna never find a solution because you play on separate teams.
Yes.
So you got to come together and say, forget about who's right or who's wrong.
Hmm.
Let's focus on finding a solution that we both feel comfortable with.
Yes. And if I might add just one thing, your judge and jury metaphorically is the solution. It is like the end goal. That is your judge and jury.
Yes.
What are we trying to get to? Because yes, I'm on prosecution and yes, you're on defense. Our judge and jury is, what is the ultimate goal here? What's the
Yeah.
ultimate goal? So I wanted to add that.
Yeah. So that's number one thing
Number
I'll
one.
say.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number two is that you have to honestly evaluate what you really want.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because I've been in a situation, I know we've all been in a situation where we say we want something, but it may not be truly how we feel. So I've been in situations to where I would hunker down and anchor down on a point of that's opposition to Bree,
Mm-hmm.
because she told me no.
Mm.
Right? So I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
But because you told me I can't have it,
Now I must.
now I must have it.
Yes.
Who are you to tell me I can't have it?
Mm-hmm.
Or I've been in a situation where I feel like you've been getting your way
Mm-hmm.
the last 5 times.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to take a stand on this one. I don't
Mhm.
really, if I were to isolate it from everything,
Yeah.
do I really care?
Right.
No.
Most of the time you don't.
But because I feel like I don't want you to play me.
Mhm.
You getting over on me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hunker down on this
Yep.
and be like, no,
Mm-hmm.
you can't have it.
Yeah.
And I had to realize when handling and compromising my relationship, like, yo, if you take this thing, you isolate it, like, you don't really care.
You don't.
You don't really care about it.
You want to win.
You just want to win.
Yes. Yes.
And you have to, and a lot of your problems will be solved and you'll have less arguments and
Mhm.
you'll find it easier to compromise a lot of times when you just look at things and are just like, yeah, I don't really care.
I don't
And I'm
really
not
care.
associating my emotion to this at all. What do you think about that?
I agree, because sometimes you just don't need to. You ever meet a person that you feel like they have to say something about something. They have to make a comment. They have to have an opinion. They have to just insert, like, to me, that is that. Like, how can you ever just have peace of mind if you never just learn how to release things? Like, I need to reserve my energy for like things that really matter to me. If I make everything a really important issue for myself, I'll be arguing all the time.
Yeah.
I will ultimately, and y'all know I don't always love jumping to the whole idea of narcissism, because that needs to be diagnosed truly, but it's a narcissistic trait, because you feel like you are always right. You're always right. Like, no, you know what? I don't like this. You know what? I don't like that. You know what? I have a thing to say about that. It's like, damn, you care about, is there anything you don't care about?
And the truth is that they probably don't. Like I
Yeah.
said, it's just that emotion. And I learned that in relationships, rarely do you both feel the same amount of passion for the same thing. Typically, one person cares a little bit more than the other, right?
Yep.
And I've dealt with that in my relationship. Like, for instance, when Brie and I chose to go down to one car, we had to choose what car we were going to get. I wanted a Tesla. Her dream car is a Jeep Wrangler, 4-door, big wheels, lifted. And I looked and I was just like, I know that if we get the Jeep, although that's not the car I want, I'll find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And Bree wouldn't hear from me about it at all. But if we got the Tesla, I would probably hear about it every day, because it's just how she operates. Like, she doesn't like it, doesn't make her feel comfortable. That's not what she wanted. Hey, we're paying this amount of money to not even have what I want. So although I wanted the Tesla, I know she cares about it way more than I do.
Yes.
That's just me being honest.
Yes.
I'm not emotionally looking at it like, you're getting over on me, you're getting this, we're spending all this money, and you're getting what you want. No, I don't really care.
I don't really care.
It's a place to get from A to B to me.
And
And then at some point, if your relationship is right, like, she sees that sacrifice.
Yeah.
And she's like, how can I would love to be able to return the favor to him in some type of way.
So true. Yeah. Like, when you put it in that prism of a courtroom, you wanted Tesla, she wanted Jeep. The ultimate goal was to reduce your expense. Okay. The ultimate goal was to reduce the expense by going down to one car. The idea is to get to that goal as quickly as possible. And that requires everybody to let go of some things, be super clear about what actually matters. Even when you think about the 2-car choices, the Wrangler is just a better choice financially. It just out of the 2 options, it's a better choice financially. So you and then, like you said, then you add on to that, do I really care? Like, I'm really just trying to get to point A to point B, and as a money man, I'm trying to save the money. I can just let this fight go and put my energy, store my energy for something I truly do care about. I have something that I will really argue down to the ground, because it's a bigger and better vision than, let's tussle about a Tesla versus a Jeep.
Exactly. And this is why this is my A1 day one partner right here, because she led into my next point, is that you have to determine what really matters. Like, that is one of the most important things in that in that space.
Yep.
Because a lot of times we in our mind formulate these things that don't really matter, or give weight to things that we don't really care about. And it's a lot of times our emotion that's involved in that and why we do it. But and like, Brie and I rarely argue anymore.
Yeah.
And part of that is because, like, I had to go down and really figure out, like, what really matters. Like, what are the ultimate goals we're trying to achieve? And you start to realize that a lot of things that we care about don't really matter at
Especially
all.
not long term. They matter in the short term.
In the short term. And one good great example of this is that I said Brie and I are family planning. Bree picked out names of the babies that she loves, and names are a big deal for your kids, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to, she feels passionately about the names that she chose. She likes them. I think they're cool. I don't want something like super ratchet or anything.
Yeah.
But I think they're cool. But I'm just like, okay, if that's what you want to do, because I realize the thing that matters to me is having a healthy baby.
That's it.
I don't care about anything else, like anything. And I've been talking to different friends. People have been sending me podcasts. Like, I talked to one of my coworkers, and she sent me a podcast. You should check it out, called Fertility Ain't Fair. and it's her and her husband talking about her journey of conceiving and
Yeah.
fertility, and
Yeah.
they talk to different people who've had fertility issues.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about the name. You know what I mean?
It's
For
like
me,
literally, if you could just get the baby earth side safely and healthy, we could call the baby.
it can
Name
be
the baby.
girl, boy. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I know that somebody may argue down to a name and wanted like. I had to realize, and that's just one example in my relationship, what really matters. So even when the wedding conversation happens, it's just looking like, what do I really care about? I know that I'm going to be chill on my day, but I know Bree is going to be thinking about everything, like trying to figure out, like, and I know that this means a lot more. Not that our union doesn't mean the same to us, but this gathering, the way it looks, means just a lot more to her.
Yes.
I want her to be happy.
Yes. That's what actually matters
that's
more
what
to
matters
you.
to me.
Yes.
I want to make sure that our celebration of this union doesn't cripple us for what we're trying to achieve in the future. That's what matters to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the other stuff, like, I'm just for what?
Yeah.
For what? For things I ultimately don't care about.
No,
like,
no.
So you have to be truthful in that. Thoughts on that?
I just wanted to say, like, in a to me, an easy way to rationalize like what really matters and what doesn't. When you think about the thing that you're maybe tussling about, let's say it's cake flavors, because that's something that comes up a lot on wedding days. Fast forward 25 years, 30 years, and you're talking about your marriage to someone, and someone's maybe even asking you, like, you know, what are some of the most significant things about being married to this person? Are you going to be talking about the flavor of your cake that you had on your wedding day? Probably not. You'll be talking about whether it was all 4 of my aunts that were there versus 2 of my aunts that were there. Probably not. These are things that just aren't going to come up when you're starting to have those conversations about your marriage. And I put emphasis on your marriage because your wedding is one day that celebrates a lifetime that you're about to embark on. It's important. I would never say that what happens on your wedding day, how it all happens, what you both want, those things they're important, but they're important in the short term. They are not important in the long term. What truly matters is a happy, healthy union. And what does that truly look like? And how could the things that happen in this one day have an impact on that? Like, even down to what you just said about Bree, where yes, it mattered for her to be happy. And it mattered that you were able to give her that, but not financially cripple you in order to embark on your actual marriage. Even that is a yo-yo. Even that is a balance that you had to do, because hell, some of making her happy could have been giving her things that would financially cripple you in that moment. So even that, I'm over here compromising on the things that actually truly do matter. You're always going to be doing that in life. Life is all about this and that, yin and yang, which put a little bit here and you got to take a little bit away from there. It's always about that. So I would say use that rationale of, like, when I'm having a later conversation about this, or even just trying to recall it, like 20 years from now, I'm trying to recall what really mattered to me if my husband died. In this moment where I'm trying to say red velvet is gotta be the cake, will I care about that on that day? I won't.
You might honestly regret, if you lost them, that you pushed them so much on the thing that they actually wanted, when you like, that didn't even matter.
Didn't even matter.
I'm mad we spent a week not talking to each other about
a cake flavor.
We
lost time.
And we lost time.
Yes.
That didn't even matter.
Yes. So I think that's just a good little quick thing. Like, can I really just release this and let this go? How much does it really play a part into our marriage? Or am I just trying to be right and have what I want because I like red velvet cake? If you don't have red velvet cake at your wedding, they still sell it and they still make it, and you can get it after the wedding. Just so you know, in case you didn't know that, I'm here to help. I'm here to help. Yeah,
for sure. And I would say last thing, it just leads all into, for me, like this last little bit, because for me, it's all about perspective, right? I can tell you options of what you could do in a situation like this, but it's ultimately y'all getting to a point to where you can communicate and figure out what it looks like for you. It could look like a lot of different things. And the last thing for me is just understanding what compromise is, because I think people have an idea of different ideas of what that means to them. Some people think it means meeting in the middle. Some people think it means you get this one fully what you want, and then the next time I get this
fully what I want. Yeah.
fully what I want. Some people think a hesitantly or not being hesitant and saying yes or no is a great compromise, but then you end up resenting somebody if you said something that you didn't mean, said yes and no. So I think it's important to understand that it could be all those things.
Yes.
Jeep, Tesla, there is no middle version of that.
Right.
There's no mashup.
A
Tesla, a Teep. Like there is no middle, right? I can't mash that together so we're both happy, right? But in that decision, in order for me to feel better about it, we had to figure out, all right, what's most important to you in the Tesla? Let's look at it. What's most important in that? Why do you want that?
Yeah.
Okay, you like having a car that has a little bit more technology and, you know, has different features and all that. Why do you want the Jeep? I want to be able to open up the roof and have the area and feel close to nature. So the Jeep that we got is one that roof comes off, but it's automated. It's not one of the ones you have to take off manually. It has the button, rolls back itself, and it can roll back. This is more the updated one, heated seats, heated steering wheel, backup camera, like
so you're incorporating some of the technology of the Tesla.
Into the Jeep.
So you got a Tesla.
Got a Tesla. And it served as the compromise, but sometimes it is 100% what Bree wanted. And just being like, okay, after evaluating it, it's not that big of a deal. We can go this way. And then I'm not expecting the next one to go my way too.
Right.
It's just, we look at every situation, we see what makes sense. We take in consideration the other person. And if we have the perspectives from the first three things that I'm talking about, not looking at them like they're wrong, not trying to attack them and persuade them to think that what you're doing is right and they're wrong. It's like, what we talked about, how do we find the solution to this? This is all we're doing, is solution oriented.
Yes, it.
Because at the end of the day, what you both should come to the relationship and any conflict that you're handling or discussing is like, I want you to have what you want.
Yeah.
Each person should say that. Like, I want you to have what you want, but I also want to have the things that I want too. What does it look like for us to be able to get some version of what we both want? And that's where we start the conversation.
That's it.
Not you wrong for how you these people.
Why would you want
all these people in the you don't even talk to them. Like you don't it's hard to understand being in a family to where you are the first.
Oh yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's hard. You can't judge. I can tell you family members that I love down to depth, they will do anything for me that I don't talk to. So you can't judge how often I talk to them off of like,
that's true,
this person raised me or was here. Like it's you can't make that determination for somebody and their family. So you can't put that on them, you know, in those situations. So instead of trying to tell them they're wrong, it's like, how can we get both elements?
I agree, man. That you hit the nail on the head. You really, really, really are, because it's just having those honest conversations. And I loved it that she even said that, like, him not getting what he wants, it breaks my heart. I want what I want, but also the idea of like a person that I love so much, who I would really give them anything that they wanted if I could, that I'm now stuck between what we call a rock and a hard place, choosing what I want versus choosing what a person that I love more than anyone in this world, also what they want. And I think, you know, you teetered into it a bit with like the family thing of like, oh, a first, but also like there are just cultural customs to getting married. And even I know that Mexican celebrations and traditionally, there are just certain things that come with that. And so even to me, I was like, well, how didn't you know that your Mexican husband was not going to need to have all of his family there? I would have known that from the moment I started dating.
25, a little light.
Yeah, I mean, ain't too crazy. Ain't too crazy.
Did you go to a wedding, like an African wedding that was like 3 events, 4 events? 500
guests. 100%. It was an all-day event. And I think I was really there for just
and you were exhausted as a guest. Yes. Like, I can't imagine what they felt like, the actual bride and groom. But it was so many customs. It was, and there is no way that thankfully both of them were African.
because there
could
was.
you imagine if it was?
Oh my God, there is no way. There is no compromise, baby. This is what we are doing.
Yeah.
This is what, and I loved it. Like culturally, I loved experiencing it. But 500 people as guests, plus customs, plus traditions, plus outfits. I don't even know what the budget was. I just know that it was a lot. It was a whole lot. So yes, you can't, if you decide to get with someone, you would be better off actually asking them up front, like before you even get there, like, so I know that you are, and what I do know about your culture is, are you traditional in that sense? Like, would you have that traditional experience?
Yeah.
They're going to be able to tell you like, nah, I know I am, but I don't even adopt those principles. I'm not into that. You should assume that they are based on their culture. Like if I married an African man, I would assume that we're going to be doing all the stuff.
And I think it's important to, and this is something that you had talked about earlier, but one thing that helped Bree and I in our relationship, and you may learn this a little bit later as you guys, grow in your marriage, is that it's important to communicate to your partner what the most important things to you are when it comes to decisions that you're making. So Bree knows, to me, I'm like, money is important to me. We have a goal that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
If you ever come to me about something, just know that what the cost is going to be has to be included into whatever it is. So she knows now that, like, no matter what she's talking to me about, planning, doing something in the future, wants to get something, wants to go somewhere, wants to do something, she knows I'm going to frame it in the construct of how much it costs and how it hinders us, relates to whatever goals that we're trying to ultimately achieve that we agreed on for our relationship. And I know for her, Bree doesn't like color, really. Bree likes a certain look and feel with things. So I know if I come to her that I have to make sure that this thing looks a certain way, or we understand each other. So the way that we communicate now is not as if we're communicating with this stranger or foreign person. I know my person. So now when I come to compromise with her, I already have the framework for how I need to put it together in order to get it. And we do this at work, right? Like, I talk to my boss, like, hey, if you want to do something, I know that he's a revenue analytics driven person. So if I'm trying to get something from him, I have to frame it in a way of how it returns revenue back to the company, to where some people are different. So you just have to understand who you're communicating with.
You got to understand your audience.
For sure. So I think, going into this, what do you think is some lasting advice for
Mrs. Groomzilla?
Mrs. Groomzilla.
I mean, I think,
and maybe some solutions possible. We could throw some out there of what she could possibly do to meet in the middle if this was like our thing, like how a compromise could work.